Welcome to this week's Treasury Career Corner podcast, where I interview Treasury professionals about their Treasury careers. Each and every week, I talk to Treasurers about how they built their careers, where they are now, and where they see both themselves and the Treasury profession going to next. In this week's show, I'm joined by Tomer Amitai, the SVP, Corporate Treasurer, Head of Insurance and Risk Management at Teva Pharmaceuticals. Now, for those of you who don't know, Teva Pharmaceuticals have been developing and producing medicines to help improve our lives for over a century. A portfolio of 3,500 products, around 200 million people around the world take a Teva medicine every day. But as always, I'll let Tomer explain that a little bit later in the show. He's got one of the most amazing experiences. When you go back, and we were just discussing before the show, so Teva came up as an intelligence officer, then lawyer, then Citigroup, and then joined and worked in Treasury. So, if anybody else has got a background like that, I'd like to hear about it because this is amazing. And this is what we're going to deep dive in. Tomer, it's enough talking from me. Perhaps if you would, take us back to, your history, because it's so diverse. It's absolutely brilliant. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, and thanks for that brilliant introduction.
Oh, pleasure.
Yeah, so look, you can say that I indeed had quite an interesting career so far. I'm a strong believer in diversification and pursuing your deepest interest. I always, since I was little, I knew I'd want to be involved in the business world one way or the other. Didn't necessarily know it's going to be in finance, but eventually ended up this way. But I think it very much sits on my sort of set of strengths at this stage and, largely into my career. So found myself indeed in Treasury. I started in law school, indeed, as you mentioned. I do believe that, law as a profession gives you maybe the broadest set of tools to engage the business world, the understanding, the reasoning, not just the actual practicality of understanding law, but actually these extra tools, this way of thinking,
right.
Way of analyzing things, way of addressing complicated problems that really, gives you an edge in dealing with complex situations in the business world.
So is that the sort of analysis side of things, and just that you analyze what the other person on the other side of the table is doing, or where's that come from?
Yeah, it's that. It's being involved. I was a corporate lawyer, so it's being involved in highly complicated transaction, understanding the underlying business rationale, negotiation skills, obviously, verbal and written communication skills, etc. So all of this really gives you a set of capabilities. Again, in my mind, very few degrees can actually give you.
But you did that. But did you already think, actually, I'll do this for a while and then go into business, or did it then just happen naturally, or what happened?
Exactly. The thinking was really that, I'm going to do this and then find the right opportunity and timing to move on to the business world. I also learned, by the way, economics. I have my BA in economics. So I knew that the opportunity would present itself. I'd pursue it, and it did present itself 2.5 years going into my me practicing law. The opportunity really to move on to Citibank, so completely different industry in general, and it will also be part of what I'll describe in me moving to Teva. But I'm also a very strong believer in taking some courageous moves in managing your career. I'd say that this was one of first courageous move, sort of, or quite fundamental move I did. So moved on to a completely different discipline, banking. These were very interesting, few years in my career. Citi was I would say, a mid-sized, even a small-sized branch of a huge global corporate, which was sort of in the phase of establishing itself. And the opportunity that I stepped into was one in which, we essentially built a completely new business to the Israeli market, almost from scratch. Mm-hmm. So it was sort of a startup mode within a huge global corporate, which also exposed me very much to the Israeli capital market, to the Israeli infrastructure, lots of work with the securities authorities, with the local exchange, with many market players. So very interesting few years there.
And what was the state of the Israeli market then? Again, it's not something I'm familiar with. The London markets all the way through, long established, but it sounds like they were still developing, or what stage were they at, would you say?
Yeah, indeed. So I would say that the Israeli market in general has opened up dramatically over the last, I'd say, 2 decades, foreign players, much more than ever before. And again, that particular business that we opened was exactly geared towards facilitating better participation of foreign actors or foreign players in the local Israeli capital market, which again, I'm proud to say that we're a part of making it happen.
What was banking like then? Again, you'd made this move from lawyer to a banker. What was the shift in thinking, dealing with people and things like that? Because, before you became then Treasury, how was it?
So a few very interesting things. So first, you move from serving many cases and many people and being a lawyer and being, sort of all over the place to one very focused, clear agenda of establishing essentially your own business. So that's, obviously completely different from what you do as a lawyer. So that's one sort of very fundamental thing that happened. The other thing, which is also very interesting, is moving really to the, global corporate world, which to me was, it took me a couple of years to fully assimilate what it really means to work for such a huge, complicated corporate within the context of a small subsidiary that's working to sort of progress its agenda and everything it needs within, I would say, the processes, the systems, the mindset, the people, the infrastructures that, we all know that global corporates are so good at. So taught me a lot these first few years on how to manage within a global corporate environment.
So then, Tomer, you made the move from banking to corporate treasury, and you went into this working capital manager role. What was behind that? You were at Citigroup doing well, thought actually a move to corporate treasury. How did it come about? What was the situation?
So to me, again, that was another sort of courageous moves I referred to before. And first, understanding that, opportunities for progress within global corporates when you're sitting in a very small subsidiary are very limited. I was 3 years into my career with Citi. So that was one thing. And secondly, I was very much attracted to the corporate environment. We were serving many corporates. I got to know many of them. So to me to move on, again, serving in a corporate environment was the sort of the natural next step of my career. And when sitting in Israel, you cannot ask for much more than moving into Teva. Teva has been and still is the largest by far Israeli corporate, the most complicated, the most interesting, one of the most famous success stories, corporate success stories in Israel. And to this very day, again, with all the ups and downs the company has undergone, Teva is still considered to be, the sort of the common people's stock. And everybody is interested and everybody knows about Teva and what's happening in Teva. So to me, to make the move as a sort of a natural next step in my career was natural. I had a friend that brought me into Teva back then. And this is really when my journey with Teva began.
And with that, you say about the sort of the common people stock of the people, is it just that it's so well known because everyone uses the product and it's just, that's the place to work, or what's the situation?
So Teva is by far the largest provider of medicine to the Israeli market. So every Israeli household has Teva products one way or the other. Yep. But it's not only that. It's a company that against all odds started as a small manufacturer in Israel and then essentially broke all limits, expanding dramatically across the globe to become the huge corporate it is right now. And, in more than 60 markets, one of the biggest players in the US, in many countries in Europe. And when you think about it, again, coming from such a small market and against all odds, it took a huge vision and also some superb execution along the years to get the company, again, from a country like Israel, to become the global leader it is today.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, Tomer, you made this move, the right move, I would say, from banking into treasury, joined Teva, and it was an amazing, success story and a company that lots of people know. But maybe explain, if you would, what Teva is, and then then just give us a whistle-stop tour of your treasury career, because you got promotion did really well. So to talk us through the company and how you were interlinked with that. So over to you, sir.
My career with Treasury in Teva spans essentially two horizons. I started my career in Teva for 2 years in Treasury and then did sort of a whole circle, which we can definitely talk about, to come back to lead the organization 2.5 years ago. Quite a story there in between. But maybe before that, so a few words about the company. You mentioned it at the very beginning. But again, against all odds, a company that grew out of Israel is now one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world, selling in excess of $17 billion on an annual basis in more than 60 markets. We're the world leaders in generic pharmaceuticals, have been so for many decades now. But we also have, and that's something that people don't always acknowledge, we have a very big specialty business, an innovative business within Teva, quite a big one in which we actually either buy or develop ourselves innovative products in various therapeutic areas. We also have a big over-the-counter business, over-the-counter medicines, and also one of the biggest providers of the active pharmaceutical ingredients, which are the building blocks of medicines to the global pharmaceutical industry. So we're essentially backwards integrated. But the beauty about Teva is that the company developed over, I would say, the last 3 decades through a very, very aggressive mergers and acquisition strategy, which again grew it both geographically and also from a product standpoint. And again, one of the key challenges in the treasury world, but also in many other worlds, was how do we move from being a very diversified M&A focused company over the years to one global company with the best practices that we need to implement, being the global corporate we are. And if I take it really down to the treasury world, one of the nicest things that happened to me in my sort of 2 tenures in treasury is that I joined the group, again, almost 10 years ago, where I would say we were midway in our journey, and I've established many of sort of the working capital practices and the best solutions that we've implemented ever since. And then I came back again 2.5 years ago to lead the group in a much more advanced stage. And I want to believe that over the last, again, 2.5 years, we've made significant progress to pushing the organization even further into what it needs to be, which is really a world-class group within a world-class company.
There are 2 things I wanted to ask. The first question I have, you're tremendously successful as a company. Doesn't that just make it easy in treasury? You lean back, everyone wants to talk to you, everyone wants to deal with you. And that's relatively easy. But you then also took a slightly different path because you more CFO-ship and the global finance group. Would you recommend that to people? So Treasury, first of all, was that relatively easy, or what was the situation?
No, so back then it was quite challenging because, again, I had to establish many, transaction systems, processes, even deals that we've put in place in an area, again, the working capital management of the company, which was essentially non-existent. So that was really exciting, and it allowed me to get some great exposure to the company, to its people and to its process. And then I took a series of roles over the next, I would say, 6 to 7 years, which took me away from treasury and into general management at first of the finance organization, and then general management. Generally speaking, I was the right-hand man for Teva's CEOs. There were a few of them in my tenure, but I was sort of the right-hand man for quite a few years. And going back to your questions, I cannot tell you how an amazing of an experience it was, and how important it was for me to come back to my role as treasurer and really carry it out in a completely different way if I didn't have that experience. Why is that? Because, look, I think that treasury today has a critical role to play at the strategic decision-making tables of the company, not just the financial one, but also the business one. And you cannot be a true contributor, a true strategic partner to the decision-making table if you don't deeply and fully understand what is it that your company is doing, how is it doing, how is its financial situation, how does the industry look like, how do the peers look like, where are we heading from here, what do we need to do, and how do we as a treasury group need to support the financial strategy of the company. So to me, again, these few years that I spent in general finance and business management were absolutely valuable in successfully carrying out the role that I carry out today.
And you've got a wider role. Some treasurers are just got treasury. That's their only silo, if you like, and that's the only thing. But you also cover insurance and risk management. Now, I'm assuming by that they've merged or they've grown because they're obviously risk to the group and everything else. Or how was that created that you do corporate treasury, you do insurance, you do risk management? Why has the group combined those or put them under your umbrella, if you like?
Look, it was an evolution over the years of just thinking in terms of the right structure. So these groups actually in the past sort of reported to other places. But I think that the understanding was that in terms of capabilities and also synergies to be created, these 2 groups, so insurance and risk management, find a very good home within sort of what we call the Teva Global Treasury umbrella, and it's proving itself very well. I have a management team that comes from both the treasury, insurance, and risk management disciplines that's functioning very well, that's feeding each other with information. Again, there are many sort of areas of synergies between the core treasury group and the insurance group, between risk management and financial risk management, between risk management and the insurance group, two worlds that sort of live one by the other. So despite the fact that it was sort of an organizational evolution that led to the situation, I find it extremely beneficial today, and I think so do my leaders in my team.
You talk about the leaders in your team. That's a great way to introduce it. You've got a team of over 50, so a lot of people to sort of lead, manage, coach, and things like that. How do you do that, or what's the sort of the structure for you guys? Coming to the people and talent aspects. What do you see as the key challenges there?
So maybe two words on structure, and then I would say the challenges. So essentially, I have these three groups again reporting into me. The global risk management is a small team on the corporate level, based in HQ in Israel. The insurance group is slightly larger, but again, most of it is centered in Israel. And through a few good years of improvement, we've sort of centralized the entire scope of insurance activities worldwide into that team. And the treasury group is built essentially of two separate legs. That's also where the weight of the people lies naturally. So I have three centers of excellence, treasury centers of excellence that reside close to me in corporate. One of them overseeing financial risk management and cash management. The other one overseeing the debt aspect and banking relations. And the last one, which I've put in place and I find very important, is a small group or small team that manages treasury systems and some elements of our core processes. So these are centers of excellence. And then I have another quite large group, which are sort of on the business partnering side. So Teva is divided into three regions geographically. And I have in full alignment three regional treasurers that serve as business partners to each one of these regions, Europe, North America, and what we call international markets, which is essentially everyone else. So that's sort of the structure. Look, the challenges on the people and talent side, other than Corona in the last 8, 9, 10 months, that has put huge new challenges on our capabilities as managers and in leaders. I would say, generally speaking, it's setting the right strategy. It's promoting the notion of business strategy and business partnership, which I, constantly promote within my people. How do we, again, always strive to generate and provide more value to the business, better business partnership, better proximity, et cetera, et cetera. Also, create the right opportunities for people, either in terms of their internal development, also from external sources to continue and develop. At the end of the day, we're a small group. So you can definitely always develop up the ranks, but the opportunities there are limited. But on the other hand, I always push my people to also develop horizontally and become a much more diversified contributors, employees, so they can also form a good talent pool to the broader finance group and not just to the treasury organization.
And they can move across the silos as well, move across the pillars, if that's all right, with the centers of excellence. So you get them to move across each.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you talk there about developing talent and looking to the future, and you then touch on treasury systems. And I talk on lots of shows about, I've seen that the treasurer has been increasingly put forward by the CFO, pushed in the front of technology. And at one stage, everyone's going on about blockchain, which seems to have died down a little bit, but robotics and AI and actually simplifying a lot of those processes, that's definitely at the forefront. I've heard that from a lot of people. But there's lots of other things coming up, treasurers and things like that. What do you see as the future of treasury, or the challenges that are coming your way? We have to deal with this, or right, we need to go forward, guys, and look at this. Is it technology or other areas?
So look, technology is definitely a large enabler of everything. At least I'm foreseeing we will be required to do today and into the future. I must admit, and I've been asked a lot this question, but I don't think that all these concepts, AI, robotic, big data, etc., have matured to a level that's usable enough. At least that's the way I see it. Many of them are still sort of in the general slogan ballpark, and I see very limited applications to our day-to-day sort of business. But I do believe that eventually they'll mature. and they'll become much more useful. To me, the focus today is really in automation that's geared towards reduction of low value, highly transactional work, and shifting my group's activity more and more towards the strategic elements of what we can deliver on through using technology. To us, the challenge is in integrating many sources of data. We're a company that has multiple ERP systems, very complicated underlying system landscape. So our challenge is to get real-time, accurate data, whether it be exposure or cash management or many other things, aggregating it quickly, and then applying the right set of analytical tools to it to deliver highly valuable products. And again, today we've done lots of progress, and we're sort of, I would say, midway as far as automation is concerned. But still, we have quite a bit of manual intervention here and there. And our analytical tools are very good, but they're mostly based on people's capability right now. And over time, I want to augment it more and more by system and data tools.
Do you think, this is just me chucking it out there. Do you think that, I really like the way you said, it's some sloganizing. I've increasingly spoken to a lot of treasurers, and it seems that you guys have got problems first, and then the solutions are coming second. And I'm finding, I've just been, emailed this morning with a couple of, this company's doing this company's doing this, and they're all coming up with these solutions, but not necessarily for the problems that I hear you guys in Treasury telling me about. It seems that they're, we can do this and we'll only charge you this, but it's, hang on, have you actually sat down with that corporate treasurer? Have you really deep dive with the team to say, what are your problems? Do you see that? It sounds like you do when you're talking about your team. It's limited by the team having to get through it, but perhaps not being given the right tools. Would that be right?
Yeah, I'd say that, look, all tech companies, whether it be small or large, have definitely the right intentions, and we are engaged with them always in conversations. But I must admit that, again, the big ticket items that trouble me as a corporate treasurer are still, I would say, largely unresolved. For example, the holy grail maybe of things that corporate treasurer deals with, cash flow forecasting. Today still, the solutions there are very, very minimal to provide me with what I need. So I apply lots of brain power and manual processes to support that. The same for, FX exposure capture, which again is a huge area of concern for me, real-time FX exposure capture and analysis. So there are, some good solutions, some better solutions, but still not solutions that are systemical. That allow me to sort of completely solve that very challenging issue. And there are other areas, again, in ERP connectivity, in data collection, etc. There are good ideas that are developing, but nothing currently that is, systematically solving some of the core issues that corporate treasurers deal with.
We're not at the end of the show yet. We're not far off. But what I wanted to ask, looking back at you and some of your history and things like that, at the end of the show, we ask for the top 3 things and stuff like that. That's not the question I'm asking. What I'm asking here is, someone's coming in and you've got this incredible background, I say, really diverse. What are you doing with your team to say, right, explore this other areas? Or are you coaching them to go to branch out of Treasury? Or, or you're saying, actually, Treasury, we can provide this because you have a better you know it and you can see that? Or do you try and coach them on a rotation? Or what was the situation?
To me, it's a delicate balance. So first, again, like I said before, I always push my people to expand their knowledge, their expertise, and their understanding of the business, whether it be within the company or outside the company, because I think it makes for much better business savvy, thoughtful employees. So that's one thing. Secondly, it's always, to me, drawing a balance between nurturing the talent pool I have in-house to grow within the organization and succeed and develop within. But again, like I said, I keep pushing them also to expand their knowledge into other areas in finance or otherwise, so that they can make for much better, again, finance people, generally speaking. And if they choose to develop in the organization and become successors of me one day, then great. But if they'd like to become country CFO or the head of the FP&A division and wherever else, they'll have the set of tools and capabilities and knowledge to do that. So it's a fine line you're drawing, but I think it's the right one to do.
Yeah, to be that, have specialist skills, but, then apply them in different areas, just as you did very, very well. So, I think it is about time we I know that we could keep talking for hours and really enjoying the conversation, but, we like to keep it to the sort of half hour, 40 minutes, looking back over your career and then to give recommendations to the people listening today. What are the top things that you would say people should do? We'll put a link to your profile in the show notes for LinkedIn and things like that, so people can maybe connect to you if it's right to have them in the network. But as you look back over this, what are you thinking? Do you know what you guys should be doing this? And maybe we put it at the different levels. So if you're a junior treasury person, do this. Mid-level, this is what you should do. And looking at some of the other treasurers, this is what they should be thinking about, if that's the right way to sort of phrase it. So, what would you say to those guys listening today?
So to me, I'd say, and it doesn't differ too materially from one rank to the other. I'd say, a few things. First, I'd say, be curious. Always try to learn more. Always try to understand more. Understand the company you work for. Understand the industry you operate within. Reach out to people across the organization, etc. Make sure that again you understand the environment you live in, and not just the very specific area you're working within or the very specific function that you carry out. So that's one thing. Secondly, I would say don't be afraid to take hard decision, whether it be on the role you're carrying out, or risk taken if it's in a calculated manner, and also if it's fully informed and educated, sometimes get you to the right place. And the same applies to going about your career. So that's the second thing. And maybe thirdly is I'm a very strong believer in the power of people and in the power of teams. At the end of the day, a leader cannot succeed by his own, and the success of a leader, I think, is the success of his team and the success of his people. So you need to really give people that confidence. You need to promote them. You need to develop them. You need to guide them. But at the end of the day, again, you won't succeed if it wasn't for your people. So don't forget that.
Amazing. Well, I thought it was going to be a diverse show because I think you've got this great background, Tomer, and I know that you do a lot of speaking at Eurofinance, so people can see you on a stage talking about your latest news and views. Thank you for your time today. I think people will gain a lot from the episode. Really, if you do want to connect with him, we'll put Tomer's details in the show notes. And thank you very much for today.
Thank you very much for having me.